What's going on, everyone? This is George Edmondson, and we're recording a podcast. What that podcast is called is still TBD. So by the time it's uploaded, we will have a name. But for now, it is called the Perfect Potato Podcast.
Does that make me the first perfect potato?
All right. My guest today is Jacob Cantrell. And I'm going to let Jacob introduce himself, but Jacob, you are the first perfect potato. Here's why I wanted to bring you on board. Let me give a little bit of backstory before we get started. So my name is George Edmondson. I live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I am a full-time video creator. I started 6 years ago as a freelancer with a mid-level DSLR and iMovie, and then I've been able to build a modestly successful company with one full-time employee aside from myself, and then we utilize a lot of guys that I sub out. So Jacob is one of those people that we sub out, but he has an interesting history with me and with my company because he was one of the first people that I was able to bring on board and trust enough to start sending out to represent my company. And so that's why I wanted to have him on. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together in your car, don't wreck, for Jacob Cantrell.
Woo! The crowd goes wild.
Jacob.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. I really don't know what I'm going to add to that. Other than my name is Jacob. It's so nice to meet I'm not meeting anybody, but I'm glad that you're all here, and thank you, George, for having me on as the first guest on the podcast. It's when you asked me yesterday, I was honestly, it meant a lot that you wanted me to be the first guest, so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. So all right, Jacob, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Who are you? Where do you come from? And then we're gonna get into little stuff like why did you decide to pursue video and stuff like that? But first, who is Jacob Cantrell? Where do you come from?
Jacob Cantrell is from Scottsboro, Alabama. I now live in Birmingham. I met George during the last semester of my senior year at the University of Alabama, not studying film or anything really. I mean, it was marketing. Nothing super related to picking up a camera, though. I got introduced to him. My girlfriend at the time actually went to a PR luncheon thing.
Yeah.
And you were there speaking, I believe, on how to shoot better
video with your phone.
That.
Yep.
Yes. And I think the story went, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But she tells me that she went up to you and was like, hey, my boyfriend is very interested in doing what you do. Could I pass along, your information to him, and can he reach out to you? And I did, and George didn't respond to me, actually. He totally ignored me. Busy man like George, probably getting a lot of emails.
I remember that now. Yeah.
So I did it again. I reached out again, and he was like, hey, great. It's like 8 o'clock at night one night. He's like, can you be at this construction site at 5 o'clock the next morning with steel-toe boots? So the first thing I do is say yes. I run to Walmart, buy the second cheapest pair of steel toes they had. They're still holding up, by the way.
Nice.
Thank you, Walmart. And I went out, and it went great. I remember specifically one time you asked me to go get a lens that was like 200 yards away, and I just ran. And I think that made you like me.
Yeah. So let's back up a second. So what I noticed above everything else was the fact that you emailed me twice, because that showed to me that you were persistent and you were someone that was understanding, because, in this industry, this podcast is mainly for people in the video industry, but I'm hoping that people can take something away from it no matter what they do. But in this industry, when you deal with sales and when you deal with communicating with people, you always have to be understanding of the fact that if they don't respond, most of the time there's a good reason. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll pursue people or pursue clients, and I might not get a response for a few days, and then come to find out, well, they didn't respond because they had a death in the family, or they had something going on in their personal lives where they weren't able to get to that email and it gets buried. I mean, I get dozens of emails a day. And so that's something that I appreciated tremendously, was the fact that you emailed me twice. You were like, hey, he didn't see the first one, I'm going to do it again. So kudos. That that was the reason I replied. So I saw the first one, but for some reason, I'm sure I was
You were
like,
probably like running around with one of your, probably all four of your kids trying to get
Probably.
something done because you're a busy man.
probably.
And now that the more I got to know you, the more I realized, like, okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah, for sure. So then, the second thing was that I said, hey, dude, like, we're filming some safety video stuff. If you want, you can show up at 5 a.m. with steel-toe boots. And again, something that was impressive about just this whole attitude of get it done was, yes, I'll be there at 5 in the morning, which is so early for anybody, but especially for a college guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
In his last semester.
and I don't have steel-toe boots, but I'm gonna get some.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was huge. And then so I really appreciated that. So then, if you can tell me this, if you remember, what happened after that day? What did we do? We filmed a little bit. I asked you some basics about cameras. You knew very little.
Pretty much nothing.
Pretty much nothing, which is fine because I knew nothing when I started too. What happened after that?
Did we go get lunch that day?
I don't remember.
I don't either. It's funny you ask me that, but I mean, I guess the general gist of it is I feel like there was persistence. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah, from both sides, I think. Like, I feel like I stayed in touch with you, and you did a good job of staying in touch with me, and you kept asking me to come assist with other things, or, hey,
Right.
you can go do this. Hey, can you go do that? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I can, and I was just faking it until I could make it. And we'd get to shoots, and I would be like, hey, so I just still really don't understand what the heck ISO is and stuff like that, and would ask you question. That's a big thing I remember, was asking you like a million questions all the time, which was why I credit you and YouTube to pretty much teaching me almost everything I know to this day. So
Awesome. Well, again, and this is going to be a lot of this because we both respect each other a lot. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth of I appreciate you and you appreciate me and all that. That's going to happen. And something that I want to point out is I do a lot of listening to like leadership podcasts, and I watch a lot of leadership tutorials, and I spend money following guys like Craig Rochelle and Bob Goff and like the CEO of Disney and people like that I really respect. And one of the things that they talk about is just trying your best to be humble and giving credit where credit is due. And so we always come back to, but you asked. Mm-hmm. You know, just because I had the knowledge, sure, but the fact that you were able to say, I need to know this to improve upon myself and better myself, I'm going to ask these questions. I'm going to be out here early. I'm going to put in the hard work so that I can be successful in this career because this is something that I love. And so I appreciate that. But what I want these listeners to understand about this is there's a certain amount of self-awareness that you have to have, but there's also a certain amount of, like, you have to put in the work. You can't just expect to start getting clients and start knowing how to do this stuff just out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so moving on to our next topic. So what is it about video in general why did you pursue this in the first place? What is it that you love about the video industry that made you say, hey, I wanna come out there at 5 a.m. and get dirty and wear steel-toe boots and hustle?
Well, I guess a great way to start this would be explaining kind of where I was in life and where I wanted to go career-wise, and like what I wanted my life to look like from a working standpoint around the time that I got introduced to George. I was, I guess, a month or two out from graduating from college, and I remember sitting in my living room with some of my friends, and we were all having that, like, oh gosh, like, I don't want to sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life conversation. And it just, like, it felt like fate that it's just, like, dropped in here. And I was like, that seems like a great thing to go do. I had always had a moderate interest in making videos. Like I made a rap video in high school.
Nice.
It was for like a class project. We were rapping about like I was becoming the mayor or something. We won. So obviously we were okay at it.
The power of video.
I know, the power of video. It really drove home the message. It's amazing that, seniors in high school really relate to a rap video. But whenever this opportunity came up, I was like, I need to really go after this. And whenever I got into it and I spent more time around you and I saw like the lifestyle of what creating videos and, just doing the work that we do in this industry was like, it really, really drew me in because I would get so bored in a job where I would have to go and do the same or something similar every day.
Right.
And what we do is so different. It's like you're never in the same place. You're never doing the same thing. And even if you are like, maybe we're in the studio for like a week straight, well, you're probably working on a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And it felt like a good way to keep, I feel like my mind gets a little like crazy and I want to, have ideas going left and right. And it was a good way to kind of like put my energy towards that.
Something meaningful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, it's the same for me because when I left, for anyone listening that doesn't know my story, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, you can go check them out. Videography Academy is one podcast I highly recommend for anyone that wants to learn more about running a business. This podcast's main goal is to just tell stories of storytellers. And so that's what we do for a living. We are storytellers. And so I would highly recommend go check out Videography Academy podcast if you want to take your business to the next level and if you want to start making some life-changing income. Because Henry Finn and the guys that run that over there do a phenomenal job. But with all that said, it's the same thing drew me in. I was working for an industrial laundry company when I finally took the leap into video. And again, man, basically, even though you had just gotten out of college and I had 3 kids at this time when I started, as far as a level of understanding on how to run a video business was about the same when I started to what yours was. Mm-hmm. I didn't...
Well, that makes me feel good because mine was pretty much nothing.
That's where I was. I was shooting
great.
everything on auto. I was like, oh, you know what? If you put a camera on a tripod, it looks really good because it doesn't shake. Huh. I would say stuff like that. Like it was almost like
but we shoot everything handheld,
that's
George.
why we have tripods.
I'm just kidding.
Like I knew nothing. And so, but it is incredible the world that we live in with the internet. Everyone is connected. Everyone now has video at all times of the day. They look on their phone and the first thing you start seeing is video. And so we really got into this industry at the best possible time. Mm-hmm. Because now, even in the 3 years that you've been doing it, it's starting to get saturated with video creators. Mm-hmm. But they don't know how to run a business. And they don't know how to sell. And they haven't gone through what you and I have gone through in learning how to read a client and understand how to make a video that's going to be the best for them and their audience.
Right. And that's a really good point to bring up is the biggest thing that I feel like even more than getting the camera settings right, making sure it's lit correctly, it really takes a lot of time out there in the field and seeing different. And I was told all this going in too, and I was like, no. But now that I'm here, a few years later, it what he's saying, reading the clients, being able to handle situations, that is probably the most important thing to be successful.
Is being able to identify a potential problem before it happens and correct that trajectory of the day. Little things. I remember what I would tell you. I think there was one time you came up and you were not getting audio or the lens wasn't connecting and you were like, dude, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you were kind of freaking out in front of the client. And I was like, don't do that. After the fact, I was like, always just say, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to make some adjustments and then figure it out. Because as soon as that client sees panic on your face, they become panicked. And then the rest of the day is like they're going to be second guessing, should I have hired these guys?
Yes.
Or what's it going to look like when it's done? And so that is so true. It really is about identifying problems, or I mean, even in the if a problem occurs, being able to accept that there's a problem and take responsibility and then do everything you can to fix it.
Right.
So we had an issue the other day with some microphones that on a shoot that you were on.
Yes.
And these microphones, I don't know what happened, if the lav mic fell in the guy's jacket or if it was rubbing, but it sounded really, really bad. And we didn't realize it until it came into the studio. And so I had to make a nearly $1,000 purchase on an audio plugin to fix it. And the client knew that there was an issue. And I said, look, I'm doing everything in my power to fix this. And we delivered it to them and they're using the video. And so it's about accepting responsibility too and learning from our mistakes. We know now, quadruple check that freaking lav mic.
That's right.
So, all right, dude, let's go on. So tell us a little bit about, like, what do you do? What does your kind of weekly or monthly schedule look like in the video industry right now?
Well, right now it's it's all over the place.
Right.
You know, it's always changing. But I shoot for several different people. I've just very recently started really taking on more serious clients for myself and like my own business, I guess you could say.
Right.
But I do a lot of shooting for other production companies. It's marketing videos, safety videos. I shoot weddings, you know, and the work is sometimes, you know, you're working like 8 straight days or something and then you're feeling on top of the world. And the next thing you know, you don't really have much for like 2 weeks, but that's starting to get more consistent now.
Good.
And that was a big thing that I struggled with for the first couple of years was like keep my head down, keep going through those times of inconsistency because I'm like, man, the times when it's good, it's really good.
It's really good. Yep.
But the times when it's not fun
It's
and you
really
start
bad.
second guessing everything. And that is a big thing that has left me recently in the past couple months. I'm like, no, I feel like this is going in the right direction. So, I mean, for example, last week I was on the road for 5 days in South Carolina shooting stuff for a nursing home. And like this week I'll be at a local university shooting a few things. And then I shoot a wedding on Saturday. And that's a pretty good picture of what my schedule has looked like recently.
Yeah. That's awesome. So is there any style of video or type of video that you like that you're drawn to the most, that you enjoy the most?
From a shooting perspective or like maybe just overall creation? Overall creation. I like stuff that is just much more like candid and like raw.
Me
like,
too.
It almost has like a little bit of humor to it. I don't know. It just like stuff that feels real, just authenticity and things. Like it's fun to, don't get me wrong. It's fun to shoot like scripted pieces for, you know, companies and whatever. But I think I have the most fun when we're just like, hey, let's come up with something.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Totally agree. That's our best stuff. Our most profitable stuff has been just on the fly. Because when you have a good idea, you don't want that to go away.
Right.
It's almost like a spark, and you can either fan the flames or blow it out really quickly. And so we try to. And honestly, there's probably been many ideas that we've had that have come and gone, and we didn't get to make them, and I'll never remember them, and it is what it is. It's a lost opportunity. But whenever you do have that spark of creativity, it's always good to like jump on it and get after it.
Right. So I feel like the biggest thing in that is just to try to create things that people can relate to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah. So can I amend that
You can.
in my infinite wisdom?
You can in your... Yes, oh, George, you can.
Don't focus too much on what other people can connect with. Focus on what you can connect with.
Ooh, that's good.
Because if you can connect with it, other people will too.
Oh, man.
And so, and that is
He's
something,
been doing this longer than me, if you can't tell.
that is something that I struggled with too in my first several years. Was I wanted to create content that I thought the client expected. And it was okay, and it worked, and I made money, but our company didn't really start taking off until I came in and they started saying, well, we want this and this and this. And I said, okay, we can do that. Or what do you think about doing it this way, or shooting it this way, or adding some humor, or bringing in a 360 camera and filming it dynamically in that way, and started thinking outside the box. And that's when I started getting these clients. And when it would come down to the rates, and my rates were double or triple what they were a year ago, they said yes. Because they found value in those creative ideas and in those things that I was like, I think this would be cool. So there's a fine line, and you have to be able to read people, and that comes with time. But a lot of times, if you can connect with a client on like a more personal level, they'll be more open to your ideas in that way, because you don't want to offend them and say your idea is stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You just have to find a nice way to tell them that their idea is stupid.
Right. Or again, you say it in a way of, we can do that, and that's a great idea. What would you think about this as well? Or, you know what I mean? Just stuff like that. And so, all right, so what's the weirdest thing you've ever filmed?
A facelift.
Dude, me too. Did we do that together?
No, we did separate facelifts, I think.
But for the same client, probably.
For the same client.
Oh my gosh.
That was I thought it was going to be kind of gross, but it was pretty gross. And I don't even want to get into the detail. It was like the smells, man.
Dude, I know. Right? Did they do the eyes?
I think so.
That was the worst.
I think I kind of like browned out of that. Like, I don't super remember all of it, because I was like, all right, I'm filming.
It's like you only look at the screen. You don't look at what's going on behind the screen.
You peer around the camera for a half second. You're like, no, I'm gonna stay back here.
Yeah, dude. I filmed the facelift too. That crap sucked. Yeah. It was so weird.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, cool to say I did, though.
Me too. Yeah, I agree. It's like
a great story for a podcast.
Exactly. What's the funniest thing that you... what's the funniest moment that you can remember just regarding film? I already know the answer.
You want to guess where we were?
Yeah, no, I know where we were.
We were in a... Oh gosh, I guess I could tell a good version of this.
Tell the good version. We got time. The good
version of this. We were on a shoot together. This is very early on, and in my filming, and we were driving around the state of Alabama to film commercials for these pharmacies. And it was like, you'd go into a pharmacy, you'd be there for like 10 or 15 minutes, you're out, and you do like 5 or 6 of those a day. So we are in the middle of nowhere.
No clue.
Like West Alabama. I think it was like towards Mississippi. I really don't know where we were, but we were kind of tired, I think.
At this point, were we 2 weeks in to doing this or something every single day?
There's no telling. That whole month of my life was just like a blur.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like I was in the car the whole time.
We were.
And I was in pharmacies that kind of all looked the same.
Yep. You show up, just for people that are in the video industry, you show up, you have a set of shots that you know that you need. So you get those shots really quickly. The pharmacies are supposed to know you're coming.
But most of them did not.
And we would run into times where we'd show up and they'd be like, you're not filming today. And we had literally drove like 3 hours to get there.
Oh, I remember that one all the way in like this tiny town in East Alabama where we drove. You remember that? We drove. Were you there with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, oh, yeah, we're not doing this. We're like, you're kidding. We drove like literally 2 hours to get here and we have 2 hours to get back.
Yeah. And we would call people too ahead of time. And sometimes it would just... they wouldn't answer, and we're like, well, we're supposed to show up. Anyway, so you show up, you have these shots, you get these shots literally within like 5 minutes. And then you say, okay, we can be creative for like 5 minutes. And you'd be creative, and then you get them all to stand together, you take a photo, and you leave. And you're there for like 15 minutes. So you drive 2 or 3 hours to get there. You're there for like 15 minutes, and then you drive 2 or 3 hours to the next location.
Right.
And then the next location. So anyway, all right, continue.
So all that has nothing to really... I mean, like, that's good context for the story, and you would think that, like, oh, we did something funny in a pharmacy or whatever. No. We were at like a Dollar Tree. We had to get a new slate notebook because we had to write the names of the pharmacies because we're going to several in a day, and we're not actually responsible for editing this footage. We're sending it off to somewhere in like Maine. I don't know,
Right.
somewhere like really far away. And they had to be able to identify these stores that they had never been in. So we're slating the shots, and we were like, I think we had been using a notebook up to that point or something.
That's what they wanted. They were like, just write it on a notebook, hold it up, and then you're good.
So we went into this Dollar Tree or Dollar General, who knows, in Alabama, and we're buying another one. And we went up to the cashier. I don't even know how this really went down.
Funny.
It's not funny.
That's
like you
the
had
thing.
to be there, but we're gonna try to make it funny.
Oh my God.
I had the notebook in this bag while I think George was like checking out. He was paying it for everything, and we're sitting there trying to like make small talk with this woman, and she was clearly not having it. We'd already been laughing. I think George is wearing a shirt with like. It was something. It was like
a
some
Hawaiian
shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were going crazy at this point.
Yes.
It all has to come back to, and that's why I told the story earlier. We're driving 3 and 4 hours sometimes to places just in the car. We're going crazy at this point. Like literally, I think we're starting to snap.
Yeah.
And that's why we're laughing at everything that's not funny.
And we had already been like dying laughing at this awful story about this YouTuber that got arrested that we're not going to go into detail about on this podcast.
That's what it was,
probably
dude.
legal reasons. That was really funny. But at the pinnacle of this, like we're walking around, like we probably, can I say hi? We probably look like we're high. Like our eyes are red, we're tired, we're laughing. And I just start like, I'm bored. I'm like spinning this notebook like in the bag. Like I'm just twirling it around. And I just destroy this sign that's hanging from the
sign that's above his head. And it was the loudest sound. Like people turn and look. They think we're like breaking glass or something. And I'm still checking out. And I'm like basically crouching down on this woman's like where she's scanning everything, laughing so hard. And dude, her face was straight.
She was like, get out of the store. She didn't say that, but that's what her face said. It was just like, no, leave. And oh my gosh, we were just laughing the whole time. It made the trip much more enjoyable. I think we laughed about it for probably like the entire 2-hour drive home.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so anyway, I think it's funny that and I mean, I'll say this to be super cheesy right now, but it's funny that the funniest memory that you have regarding the video industry has not really anything to do with video.
No, it was more of like the experience of like what the job we were doing.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? It was just like the culture of
and
what
the community.
we're doing. And the community. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So that's what I was going to say, and I know it's cheesy, but the community. And this is why I started this podcast. This is why I started this group on Facebook. It's called Video Creators That Care About Making Money. And what we've been able to do is create, not just, we haven't created a community. We've brought a community together that was already out there. They just needed a place to be. Mm-hmm. The community is so strong. And it's so, like, people look out for each other most of the time. Even within competition, there's typically camaraderie. And so that's something that I love about this industry so much. And that we can all, like, be pursuant even of certain clients or certain industries, and still we're able to get along and do things how you and I have done. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I don't think you have any issue with this, and I don't think that Scott has any issue with this. You know, for a long time, I was filming for a company in Birmingham, and there was a slow transition to where you began taking more of that work, because I told him, like, hey, I'm getting busier, start using Jacob. And it transitioned into, like, they basically just became your client now.
Right.
And, dude, I was so happy for you. Seriously, I was so happy, even though it was like I had lost a client. It was like, yeah, but Jacob got a client. Mm-hmm. And he needs them more than I do right now anyway, because I wasn't being able to provide at that point like full-time sustainable income. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just thought that was a really interesting, and I think that's something that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is that you and I, in this industry, through like literally your beginning until now, there's been so many dynamic situations,
Right.
and we're still working together. Like I hired him the other day,
Yeah.
and we're having conversation. I had called him 2 days ago about, hey man, like there's potential that we're gonna start hiring you for like multi-day kind of gigs, and we're just going over rate structures and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm super happy for you that you've been able to be persistent, just like that second email, and you've been able to make a sustainable income. You're paying your bills for the most part.
For the most part.
Oh, dude, and I signed a thing saying that like I know it was totally like bull crap, but when you got your apartment,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, he's
This man
making
went
all
to
this
bat
money
for
with me.
Yeah. I was like, hey, I need some kind of proof of income, and I was like, I don't have that. Can I just make this thing up and sign it? And the apartment complex was like, they just took it, and
Yeah,
George
dude.
like signed it. He was like, yeah, that sounds great.
And you're good though.
I've never made a late payment on
There
my
you go.
apartment,
Yeah.
and it was like a little bit out of my budget, but I was like, I'm gonna push myself.
Right.
So,
Right.
But then to throw it back real quick to what you're talking about, I think it's super cool, probably for you as well, but definitely for me to see our relationship grow and change over time, and like the role that I play in, I went from running across a dirt, lot where something's being
To
built
grab a lens
to
that
grab
you
a
didn't
lens.
know what the lens was.
He was just like, it has a 24 and then there's a dash and a 105. Like, get that one. And,
my favorite lens.
yeah. And then now, like 2 weeks ago, I DP'd a shoot with a red camera from a company that flew over from Germany.
Right.
To produce it.
For
and
us.
you weren't even there.
Yeah.
And that was like,
That's huge.
That's a big change in 2.5 years.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do it. I guess this is something that my wife and I say all the time to our kids. Like, this podcast is to be inspiring and to tell stories of storytellers. It's not necessarily to give you any business advice. If nothing else, it's just to be here to encourage people and inspire people. And something that we say to our kids all the time is you can do hard things. And we say that every day to our kids because and it's always like even simple stuff like they don't want to do the dishes or but it's hard. They say that all the time. That's an excuse. So what?
Yeah.
It's hard. Okay. That's what we say. Okay, it's hard. You can do hard things.
Yeah.
And so Jacob is proof. Honestly, I am proof. Adam is behind the camera. He is proof. It's hard. So what?
Yeah.
You can do hard things.
Exactly. It's been the times that I've learned the most in this line of work were the times that I was probably the most afraid to go do whatever I was going to do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I come out the other side and I'm like, well, A, that went better than I expected.
Right.
Because I was more prepared than I thought.
Yep.
And B, like, what else can I do? So.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, don't just because you've achieved a goal doesn't mean okay, we're done now.
Exactly.
Never.
A big thing I try to live by
Never.
is the saying, like, do the thing you're most afraid to do.
I'm most afraid to like be around snakes.
Okay. Well, good thing. Okay. That's perfect because I brought a snake. Here's
Crap. Oh my God! Jacob has just pulled a snake out. This is for the audio people only.
I'm from Northeast Alabama, but I did not go to the snake handling church growing up.
Cool.
I didn't do that.
Me neither.
Maybe twice.
Oh.
But a week. I'm kidding.
All right.
I never did that.
Okay, so all right, you can do hard things, people. Whether you're in the video industry or just in life in general, don't ever it's hard. Don't let that be an excuse. Like, you have to just block that. Or you have to just accept it and say, yes, it's hard. Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm telling you right now, this past year, there have been a lot of things that have been hard on us as a company, on me as an individual. And you know what? It's hard. So what? Like, just freaking deal with it.
If you see the light at the end of the tunnel, keep going.
Yeah.
And if for a moment you don't see it, still keep going.
That's
you
right.
Believe in it.
That's right. All right, so by this point, hopefully we've come up with a name of the podcast. But I'm not gonna say the name. You're just gonna notice it in the in the description because I still don't
Sweet.
know. I came up with this concept like 2 days ago.
I know. Well, did you notice when I said like get creative? I capitalized it. That could be something. 'Cause
Get
you're seeing
creative.
It's the Get Creative podcast.
The Get Creative podcast?
Yeah.
Or the You Can Do Hard Things podcast?
That sounds kind of weird.
That does sound kind of...
Yeah, we might not need to do that one.
Get...
You might get like flagged for like,
Yeah.
YouTube has the thing now
Yeah,
where it's like
that's
for
true.
kids only.
All right, we'll figure it out.
That might be a gray
Until
area.
then, see you next time on the Perfect Potato Podcast.
See you guys. I won't be here next time. Maybe I will be.
It won't be him. It'll be someone else.
I hope to make another visit because I hope this keeps going.
Oh, it will.
And it's been
It's too much
honor.
fun.
It's just really good. I could get into talking to people on camera. This is fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for having me as the first guest, George.
See ya. Hey!
Hey!
Wait, you weren't recording?